That's like a ill ass like little caveat to have like on your resume. Like, oh, I see right here that you were a flamethrower guy. Like, yeah, well,
Flamethrower guy.
for a little bit, yeah. I
Yeah.
burnt a couple species up.
My younger
Yeah,
days, yeah.
Before I went
yeah.
into law school, yeah.
I cut my teeth as a torch man, and then I upgraded to the flamethrower.
Cut my teeth as a torch, man. I burned a couple motherfuckers. I burned a couple of them up. Yeah, I set them on fire.
Hello, welcome to Survivor's Ed, How to Not Die First in a Horror Movie. I'm Chris.
I'm Tawny.
I'm Miles.
And we are two blacks and a Mexican, and we like scary movies. So this is a show where we are exploring some scary movies of varying levels of quality. And more specifically, diving into that age-old question, does the black or brown person die first? We're also just examining in general these movies and what rules for survival we can take away from them. And this week we are talking about John Carpenter's 1982 film, The Thing, which is based on a novella, Who Goes There, and stars Kurt Russell, Keith David, the guy from the diabetes commercials.
Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, Wilford Brimley. And just a really nice cast of dudes.
Of dudes with lots of hair.
Dudes in snow with lots of hair. So this movie is sort of a alien invasion movie, but it is more so kind of a claustrophobic horror film. A claustrophobic horror film with a whodunit to it. Some have said that the Among Us game is loosely based on The Thing, and I can kind of see it. So these guys are trying to figure out who The Thing is throughout the film, and The Thing is wreaking havoc. I think that's the basic plot of the movie. Anything I'm missing here?
The Miles' favorite part where they show the spaceship at the beginning.
His favorite. Oh, that part. He's all like, man, if they didn't show that spaceship, I'd be like, man, this movie's whack.
Yeah, don't reveal that immediately. Like I would have been like, had I gone into this blind and not known anything about this movie, and they didn't show the spaceship, I'd be like, yo, what is happening right now?
Absolutely.
Like, there's way more mystery. You're like, especially with the opening scene with the dog and the helicopter, you're like, yo, what is happening right now?
That
like,
shit is genius.
Yeah,
like and it's like there's a couple of points in the movie where like I'm a little bit like, I'm not the huge John Carpenter fan. Like there's stuff that works for me and stuff that doesn't, and stuff I like of his and stuff that I don't. But that fucking scene with the dog, like, it's so scary because that dog is a good fucking actor. I don't know where they found that dog. I don't know what his training is. Like, I don't know how they did that. But that fucking dog, he's like in every scene where he's supposed to look just like menacing, and he's like there, like he's
a really good impression of the dog.
He's so good. Why is the dog so good? But
that dog is pretty solid though. Like, because you believe, good. Like, yeah, you believe him for sure. Like,
absolutely. And I wrote down. Shut up, Chris. One of the notes I wrote like midway through my like 75 like tiny pad, like teeny little pad notes that I wrote, was like the acting direction in this movie. I don't know if it's the direction or if it was just like the natural talent of the cast, but like the acting is great. And I don't know if that is what for me like makes this one of the best Carpenter. I mean, and I think most people agree this is him at his height. Like, this is him at the height of his powers. That fucking dog just nails it. And it's so creepy because the guy's screaming in Norwegian, like no one knows what's going on. Like, it's such a great opening and so menacing. Yeah. And it's like they did not need the spaceship.
Yeah, because the spaceship looked like the ELO cover from like the 80s and shit. Like, I don't know if y'all familiar with that band, but like,
That was
It
a
just looked like
cool.
it just looked like they cover like a album cover from the 80s. Like it just looked super like, okay, yeah, don't add this. Like because everything else is practical in the movie and it
Mm-hmm.
looks so legit and that like just completely throws it off. Like, all right.
Yeah, the spaceship is mega random. So this is kind of the what's the situation section of this show, and we're really gonna walk through how we feel about the movie in general. For me, yeah, the spaceship unnecessary, but it's a minor flaw, I would say. I think the the thing that really gets me in this movie is every time I watch it is that there is like you can rewatch it and watch the characters that you
Mm-hmm.
know are the thing at that point and
Mm-hmm.
kind of try to discern it, but there's no tell, which
Mm-hmm.
makes the creature that much more creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so like there's a lot of scenes where I'm just like, oh, he's definitely the thing in this scene. And I'm sitting here watching it and I'm like, yeah, but and so
It's
you
just
get
like,
that.
ew.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like did Carpenter
Yeah.
just I almost felt like Carpenter didn't tell, which he probably did, but I don't know. I don't know for sure what the behind the scenes of it was, but it's like, did he not
Mm-hmm.
tell them whether they were supposed to be the thing or not, or did he just tell them don't, just play it normal, even if the character actor does know that they're the thing? Whatever the
Mhm.
case is, like the acting, like you said, it
Mm-hmm.
really helps.
It's perfect, and it's just like I was reading. This the scene. The first person they show like being assimilated is it's the silhouette, and it
Oh
like
yeah,
Oh, when the
it's supposed
dog
the dog goes
the
into that
dog sees
room.
the silhouette, and then
Yeah,
he goes in
I
the
love
room.
that scene.
It's
Yeah.
great, and it's like I'm looking at it going, okay, who is that? Like that's the guy with the poofy hair, like. And I read that like it's really supposed to be what's his face, like the crazy one, Palmer. It's sort of supposed to be him, but Carpenter wanted it, like they tried using him and it was too distinct of a silhouette, so they actually got like a stunt guy to do it
so
because
it
he
wasn't
just like
clear.
because it wasn't clear, so it wouldn't be clear, and it's just every single like, and I think that's what, like, one of the reasons that like I have to watch this movie and really pay attention to it to really take a lot of stuff in is because of that kind of stuff. Like you cannot tell at any
Mhm.
given point, like there's no tells, and I was looking at like Reddit and stuff, and it was like people are trying to be like, well, clearly it's this signal. And I'm like, that's the whole, and we were talking about this, Chris, about Hereditary, when people are like, was it mental illness or was it supernatural? And I'm like, that's the wrong question. Like the question, it's not who, like, you're not supposed to be, there's not an answer. And that's the whole terror of this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like I think that's like the dopest part like about this. Like I think that like we said, this is like one of his like Carpenter's like better works. Like this is really good. Like that's what I was like. That's why like the spaceship throws me off like at the beginning so much because like he's so subtle. Like I like the scene where the like you were just talking about where the dog like goes in the room
Mm-hmm.
and it cuts from there. Like it just
Mm-hmm.
the dog goes in. You don't know who that is technically. It's just a silhouette. I just love that like the setup for that, and then everything after that is like, dude, you really are you. It's like it builds on like your paranoia and just suspicion, like slowly and slowly. Like everybody is just paranoid and suspicious of everybody else, and the moment somebody like breaks away from the group is like, all right, you go outside and go over here and
Yeah.
say, like, oh hell
No.
nah, nope, like, nope. Because as soon as you go outside, like I feel like, nah, yo, you it. Like as soon as you break
Yeah.
from this group, the ranks, it's like you're suspicious immediately when they return. So this one is super solid, man, and then it's even better like that it ends like without it's no resolute ending. Like it pretty much is just like
It's
what
pretty open
happened. But
ended.
yeah, it's like
Hmm.
yo, this is so ambiguous at the end. It's like this is him really. He's going crazy with this one. Like
Hmm.
it's pretty good.
Yeah, I love the tone from start to finish. I must have a thing for horror in snowy like snowed in climates, because similar to The Shining, there's this kind of ominous tone. It's obviously it's got a little more camp to it than The
It's like
Shining.
desolation.
But yeah, that idea, and that they don't go into deep explanation about the thing. Even the fact that it's just the thing, and then the research sort of just tells you, yeah, it's bad. It's gonna do bad stuff. That's all you need to know. It's gonna take over. It's gonna be bad.
Doesn't matter. They're jamming their hands into it.
Yeah. And I mean, we cannot talk about the thing without talking about the defibrillator scene, which really, like,
that's crazy.
Always gets me. Like, there's few movies I can watch as many times as I've watched this one and not, like, always get like this little chill that goes up my spine with that scene, because it's so well edited. Like, it's so perfectly edited that it feels super visceral. It feels more realistic than movies that come out today. And that whole
shit
scene
is gross as hell.
Yeah.
Like, it's just nasty as fuck. Like,
and tangible.
Absolutely. And the practical, like, and I was just watching it going like, okay, it's not like I'm looking at fucking that guy's head walking across the floor going like, oh, that's realistic, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's so grotesque. And it's so like the stuff of nightmares that it doesn't even matter that I can maybe see that it's like clay or whatever. Like those creatures, like I was marveling at them today going like, those are the fucking some of the best movie creatures that have ever been created are in this movie. So creative, so awful, like so grotesque, so like, what's the word, like uncanny, right? Like the Valley of the Uncanny. Yeah.
And it doesn't even really have like the fact that it doesn't have like a specific form, like makes it even more like horrific. Like it changes so much each time. And then even when it goes into whatever form it is, it's so incomplete, and like it just makes it even more like disgusting.
So
this is so nasty.
It's because it feels like it's like an intelligent force of nature, because it like just takes whatever form it takes and to survive and keep going. But then it also is clever enough to assimilate something and not get found out. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a cool way to do it, and one could view that as like a plot hole or something. It's like, well, but in reality, that's just what makes it so terrifying, is that you don't know enough to know whether what it's doing is, what it's
right. Like there's the whole scene. I think Blair sort of is like the case in point, right? Like when he starts to go crazy and you're like, oh, he's going crazy because he like sees what it's going to do and he wants to stop it. But you're like, was he, or was he just trying to cut off communication? Like you don't, and then you find space, like that's, I think, that Grandpa Wilford Brimley, that's like so creepy. Like you don't like, you're sort of assuming because you're being shown even like these people in private when nobody else is around, and you're sort of assuming, oh, this is telling me that they're safe, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like we can't take anything for granted.
It's there's so many, but it's like, okay, this guy can't be, and it's that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
He will wreck you too. And like I think the sound design too, like
oh my god,
on the scenes, like
the
sound of the creature is so
oh my god,
like,
Bennings,
that like it's just such a weird, and it just keeps going and kind of pulsing, you know what I mean? And that'll mess you up. That's a sound to reflect on when you're laying in bed at night.
Yeah, seriously.
I wrote ew in my notes. I wrote ew. It was like,
oh dang, what's that?
Yeah.
Ice Cube once he makes an appearance.
Ice Cube cameo, y'all.
Yeah, that like I really enjoyed, like, and this one is like, I'm not as familiar with, I haven't seen it as much as like Anaconda. Like I've seen it like a couple times, but like rewatching it, I was like, damn, this is like really well made. Like I always thought that it was a good movie anyway.
Yeah.
But like watching it now with like a more critical eye, I'm like, damn, this is like damn good. Like this is, I would rather, like if I'm talking about Carpenter, like I would rather watch this than like Halloween. Like
Hmm.
like
Absolutely.
I will watch this over
I think
Halloween. Like hands down. Like it's way more interesting to me than like Halloween. Like that's obviously like one of his, you know, highly regarded works as well. But like this shit is like I could watch this, like I watched it like twice. Like
And I don't
like for
think, and
this
it was funny as
specifically.
you say that, and I don't think the thing, if I remember my research right, was I don't think it was well received when it came out.
yeah, that's what
Or
I read.
Yeah.
or at very least, it wasn't commercially, I don't think,
I was only
successful.
3, so I don't remember firsthand.
I mean, there's a lot of films like that though, like that we like later on, like
We
or
discover,
like younger generations were like, yo, what? This is crazy. Like, oh, y'all like the like
I think it's a specific quality too that Carpenter has. Like I think like for the reasons that I said, I'm kind of hit and miss with him. Like there's stuff of his that I'm like, I don't like this at all. And there's stuff that I'm like, this is awesome.
yeah,
And there's that, like, he walks this sort of line of like between like genius and like trashiness. And sometimes they even, you know, like it's kind of
cross
like this
pollinate a
instead.
little bit, yeah.
And I'm good with that, but and then sometimes it just works for me and sometimes it doesn't. It's probably like a personal choice. But I think this is like I think this is a masterwork for him.
yeah, he's like kind of like Paul Verhoeven in that way, where it's like
Yeah.
sometimes it's like too much.
It's like,
Yeah.
were you trying to, was he
Yeah.
supposed to be like this?
Yeah.
Ghosts of
Yeah.
Mars, watch it.
Nope. Okay, so I think Carpenter's strength is forces of nature, something that is an unexplainable killing entity that he can then, that way you don't have to try to explain it. It's just there.
Mhm.
And then he
Yeah.
can just have fun with all the effects, with his brilliant like scoring and sound design, and you know, play in his sandbox, because
That's
yeah.
a good point. Like he plays his strengths. Like I think maybe
Mhm.
he knows, like if I try to explain this is not gonna
It's
go
gonna
well.
turn
Like,
stupid real
yeah,
fast.
it's gonna turn real stupid. And it's like if the more vague I keep this, probably like the more successful this is. I mean, same thing with Halloween. It's like we don't know anything about
Mhm.
why any of this is happening, and it works.
And the more we learn,
And the more we
less-
learned, it was like,
yeah.
oh hell nah, nope, that's not
Stop!
what it is.
I don't want to know anymore.
And granted, that's not really him coming up with that, but still, like, because
Mhm.
Yeah, but it just
Like,
shows it's the power of a mystery. It's the power of our imagination to fill in those gaps.
yeah,
So one other scene I have to bring up before we get into what happened with our black folks in this one. The blood test scene.
I just
Oh,
have
hell
them in my
yeah.
notes right here.
Yeah, we
Chris-
gotta talk about the blood test scene.
that's a great scene.
Oh my
man.
gosh.
First of all,
Yeah,
the first time this proposition comes up is the doctor, right? He's like, I was thinking about a blood test serum where you do this and you do this and then you find
Yeah.
this. And I'm like, what is that based on? Is that
It's
based,
based on
Just
nothing?
like- and there'll be a reaction. And I'm like, what does that mean?
yeah.
There's a
That
behavior.
if you really think about like just the conceit like that's happening in the scene, it's like get the fuck out of here. This
And-
this makes no sense.
And he
like,
tries to hang his hat on that. He's like, but I came up with the blood test. And it's just like, yeah, but it's
that blood test was trash, bro. Like we don't even know. Like, it just happened to have worked. Like
yeah.
You put it together and then there's a reaction and you're like, what? Why would that happen? Like,
They
I don't.
yada that one.
Yeah.
yeah,
For sure.
it was something like it's trying to survive, and if you threaten it, then
Well, the hot wire worked a lot
Yeah.
better than what the doctor had proposed.
There's
Yeah.
I mean, there's like a very, very, very simple logic to it, but doesn't leave room. If you tug it too much, you know, you start to be like,
Yeah,
well, wait a
just
minute, but
just leave it alone.
it's like, well, then how is this power these people? Like, if any singular little threat, like a hot wire, would cause the blood to go crazy like that, like, how is it walking around?
Yeah.
These, you know what I mean? But we don't have to talk
Walls,
about that.
everything. When you get close to it, it should just do that.
It should just
then,
start swiggling.
the heat, it started getting hot.
There's
Right.
blood
Yeah.
everywhere. There's blood all over the place. Like at that point, like it's
Yeah,
spattered
right.
everywhere, like pieces of like viscera just
I would-
flown around the whole camp. Like
I always had issues with like I hate when like I see in movies where people like easily can like take a knife and just like cut their finger
cut the
or whatever.
finger.
Like yo, I'm never doing that. Like yo, I'm
Somebody's gonna have to do that for me and probably
yeah, I can't do that.
strap my wrist down because I'm
Yeah.
gonna pull back as soon as the knife gets close.
Because one of them did like a pretty severe looking
Yeah.
cut. Like yo, what are you doing, man?
It
We
was
just need
hard.
a little bit of
It was like a up and down. And yeah, that's what when we were watching it, my wife was just like, "Why is this? Is this like a man thing that you have to like
Just saw
critically
into it.
wound yourself when you do this?" I'm like, I don't know.
I would
But,
need to like not cut on my hand because I need my hands like specifically. I don't like having cuts on my hand. I would have to like cut somewhere that I'm like, okay, I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
like my arm, forearm, or something where I could like,
Thigh.
somewhere
Yeah.
real quick where I could just wrap something on there.
I'd
Your
cut my
hand?
cheek before I'd cut my hand. you
Exactly,
know?
because your hand, you gotta grab. Like, yo, stop it, man. That's,
Yeah,
that's
that was-
a terrible idea.
That was pretty crazy. But the actual test. So what gets me, and this is my wife screamed out loud during this scene, and she's watched this movie a good 2 or 3 times, because it's that great, like, you know, the bigness of Carpenter's imagination. Like in your head, this scene every single time it feels like it's gonna be like it's gonna like sizzle or something like that.
Mhm.
And then it's like blood hand comes up when he
Yeah.
says it. You're just like, oh yeah. It's just such a it's such an outsized reaction that's what makes you jump.
And then it's carried through when
Yeah.
Homeboy starts spazzing out and
Oh,
with the
yeah.
blank expression. The spazzing with the blank
Yeah.
expression is the creepiest.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing
Yeah.
as when Benning shrieks because he looks normal, but he opens his mouth and this like monstrous noise comes
Yeah,
out.
it's creepy as hell.
It's gross.
Yeah.
It shows again great editing and pacing, because it every time, I want to say it happened last time we watched it. My wife said, like, right after the blood thing, she's like, well, then it's him. And as she's saying the word him, it's when it cuts to him doing the shaking thing. And it's just like, it's following the viewer's through line. You know what I mean? It gives you
Mhm.
time to react and be at the blood thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It doesn't just immediately cut to him. You see the
Mhm.
characters all react, and then we get to him. And
Yeah.
by the time we get to him, we're right there. Our brain is now shifted to, oh, but then that means it's him. Yeah, that guy
Mhm.
right there who's shaking. And
I always like feel the terror too of them like being strapped into that chair. And,
Ooh.
like,
Oh my
trying to get
God, yeah.
It's like when you.
oh
like,
boy
a
was like,
bee
man, we
flies
gotta
in-
get me.
It's like when
Get
a
me out.
wasp or something flies in your window when you're driving and you like can't really pull like you can't really like hop out and shit.
You're just
Oh, man,
trapped
yeah.
with this little
You
death
just
monster.
trapped because you're trying to like maneuver around it. Like that happened to me too one time. Like or like a spider. There was like a spider in my car one time that like came down and shit like right down in front of me. Like slow as hell, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like you trying to dodge it, but you can't really go
It's
anywhere.
such a moment of terror. You're just like, because you can't.
I was like,
Such
yo,
a
I
perfect
feel
analogy.
Them. I feel them right now because there's nowhere to go, and
You
like
tied up. There's
Yeah.
a literal monster tied to you, basically. I mean, at this point, and then the flamethrower is not doing its job, and just that scene. Yeah, it's really good, and that I love that scene. I actually love that in the defibrillator scene more than I do the ending, kind of the climactic scene. I think it's because the mystery is still there. By the end,
Yeah.
now we've kind of had our big reveal. We're seeing the monster in its most kind of epic state, and the design is amazing. But it is the ending is slightly kind of anticlimactic in the sense that we don't get full resolution, but I think that works. I think you're supposed to walk away a little unsettled and a little like,
Mhm.
you're looking at Childs and you're like, I don't know. And then it just ends.
Yeah.
And I like that because if Kurt Russell wasn't Kurt Russell, because I saw this movie like way after. Obviously, I saw it way after it came out, but I saw it way after, late, like when I was an adult, and I feel like I never thought the thing was gonna be Kurt Russell, because it's like, well, he's gonna be fine because he's Kurt Russell, but like you can tell the movie at points wanted me to think it was him, and or could have been him.
It's
And,
never resolved why his jacket's found torn, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole point. I think that, like, whatever it is that John Carpenter does, like, even when I don't like his stuff, like, I think I think there's an ambiguity to a lot of what he does, where like you're not supposed to feel okay at the end.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that like they never resolve why McCready's shit turns up all torn up is like, it's worth thinking about, and I love it. And this is exactly what. And again, to go back to Hereditary, which I talk about constantly, but like it's the wrong question of like, who's the thing really? Like, that's not the question. Like, the movie's not about who the thing is or isn't. The movie's about like, how does it fucking feel to not know who it is or isn't?
Yeah, that like paranoia is like the key to this, like, and that makes it successful because the whole time is like you're paranoid, like, even with the main character, like, and that's not often where you're suspicious of like the main character.
Right.
He's pretty much the main guy. Like, it's Kurt Russell, so, and like those things, like you said, it's like that's never answered. And like a part of me during the movie, I was like, is there something suspicious about him, or is this like just a decoy that the thing is doing to like, mislead throw people off? Like, I don't know. Like,
you can't know.
And then by the
you
end,
can't know.
And then by the end, it's like, yeah, I really don't know by the end, like, point, like, because it could be anything at that point. And I feel like that's perfect. Like, and I agree with you, Chris. Like the last final like little scene or whatever, it's cool, but like the defibrillator and like the just earlier scenes where like we get to see like what's going on is revealed, those are like way more like just like extreme to me. Like, those are like crazy. And then like it's sort of just like the matter of fact, like that end point, like the one what's the dude on the skates, what's his name again?
Knowles.
No,
we don't know what
Punky
happens
Brewster's
to him.
teacher, Mike.
Yeah,
you guys all I think of is Mike when I
leave
see
it
him.
to Tani to bring Punky Brewster into this conversation.
I was obsessed with Punky Brewster. Like, she was like my hero as a little. I was like, that was my age, right? Like, she was a little bit older than me, and I was like, that's Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, but like, you don't, we don't see like what happens to him either. Like, I mean,
No.
In all likelihood he gets killed, but I don't know.
Unclear. Yeah.
It's unclear. So it's like, man, like they really leave you like wondering, like, by the end of that, like, what the fuck just happened? Like, yo, like, what is about to happen?
Yeah, let's use that as our transition, because that's our second part of the show. You good, homie? How did our people of color do? So we had two black men in this movie, Knowles and Childs. And how did they do?
We don't know.
Yo, Childs was not with the shits at all. Like, the whole movie, he was not.
I believe this voodoo. You know, it's funny when he said voodoo, I couldn't help but think of Princess.
Yeah.
Shadow Man.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, he was not with it. He didn't have time for none of that shit. Like, from
he's
from
the
jump.
one that said, and I love this, and they give this line to him, and it's almost like he says, like, if I wasn't, like, what did he say? Like, if I wasn't me, how would you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, and that's the fucking question.
Yeah.
Like, that's the central question of this
that's
whole
literally
thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's the theme of the
and
movie.
That's him saying it. Like, if I wasn't me, how would you know? And there's nothing. Like, you got nothing.
Yeah, it's interesting because both of these characters, Knowles, he's in and out of the story.
Yeah,
like, and
he's on roller skates.
Yeah, you introduce. It's interesting because he's introduced in a kind of he's probably got the most interesting introduction just because he's rolling around on the roller skates. He's doing, and he just kind of stands out to me as a character, not just because he's a black guy, a bunch of white guys, but just as a character. But he really doesn't have a lot to do in the movie. And so in my head, I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, he's gonna be the Thing or something, because it's like we're not seeing him enough. But it's almost like you throw this distinct looking character out there, and then you kind of hide him in the background. It's like, oh yeah, he's gonna, and so I feel like he did well through most of the movie because he made it pretty far. And there's that hilarious scene. I can't tell if it's intentional, but how each character who finds out they're not the Thing suddenly is next to Kurt Russell with the flamethrower.
Oh yeah.
Just a gun.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. I was like, what?
It's just a hard cut, and there's another guy with the flamethrower.
I love it.
But I feel like if we're talking about how they did, they both made it far.
Right.
Yeah. We just don't know like what that actually means for them when the credits roll.
Right.
I don't know if, and I don't even know if that, like, if it matters whether or not whoever is whatever, but like, I think it's significant, like, in this film, which is 1982, right? Like, to have the two black characters make it farther than most of the other characters.
And not turn into horrible monsters on screen.
Not turn into horrible monsters on screen.
First of all, there were two black characters.
Two black characters.
Like, that's already, like, setting new, like, we on, like, new horizons right there. Like, just with that alone, like, damn, two black characters, and they both make it to the end. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Progressive thinking. Okay.
Absolutely.
It's like, but like he makes like the worst mistake. Like, I feel like he's cautious, like he's like terrified, right? Like after everything pops off, and then he makes like the worst decision ever, like towards the end, where he just like goes to like investigate for whatever fucking reason. Like, yeah, you wouldn't do that, like you, like, this whole movie you've been like terrified to be. Like, why wouldn't he just call that out? Like, hey, yo, because he saw something. Like, that was suspicious. No, fam, like, yo, why would you go investigate? You know what's happening.
That's
like,
when you're like, hey, now, hey. That's what you do.
I was so confused. I was like, yo, why is he doing that? Like, this is the moment where you like go like communicate with the rest of it. Like, hey, nope. Well, we down one. We lost somebody. It's just us now.
How about we don't split up anymore? How about that?
Yo, they were determined to split up into teams like every 5 minutes. I was like, yo, stop doing that. Like, yo, we all got to stay and let's all handle all of this together.
You're literally in a situation where like you need to make sure that everyone's clean. How are you going to send people off?
Right.
Like in teams.
It's like, even if everything goes fine and you come back together, now you got to...
Now you gotta do that whole process again.
Everyone fucking rubber band them together. Like, and that, like, one of the things I love about Cabin in the Woods is the joke where like they're like, we all stick together, and then they drug them. They're like, let's split up. Because it's completely illogical. Like, there's no reason.
We would just have to go investigate all of this together. Like, well, I know we can cover more ground if we split up, but no,
And the cover more ground thing is always funny. That's such a throwaway line. We can cover more ground. Like, who cares?
Who cares?
Why is everybody so obsessed with covering more ground? Like,
I want to see one movie where they're all back to back, kind of going, and one person's just so mad. They're just like, we're just covering so little ground right now.
Because the problem is like, when you do split up and you cover more ground, like the base of the end is not that big. It's like, yo, and you're in the middle of nowhere, so everything that we can see like in here is like, okay, and covering more ground is pointless because it's like, okay, once we split up, now we have to take more time to find each other again. So you might be you wasting time.
But the ground, y'all, we got to cover it.
We got to cover the ground
with our blood, apparently,
and you got to cover more of it.
So we got Knowles, we got Childs, and Childs from the beginning, like, and I almost feel like it's a slightly deliberate, not bait and switch, but like, we're supposed to be able to, as the audience, we're supposed to be able to rely on Kurt Russell, right? Like, that he's clean. and we don't, and we can't, and I almost feel like, like that's a very deliberate move, to throw like the last fucking black guy in there, and be like, you don't know.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, there is something about that. And like the nature, they have an antagonistic relationship throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of adds that layer of like, I already don't like you. And now you might be a horrible monster too. That's not
Right, yeah.
and so there's an interesting dynamic at the end where they're both kind of like, and I like that laugh where it's just like, yeah, I mean, this is kind of crazy, right?
It's truly ambiguous.
Yeah.
And that's something that American audiences are not fond of.
They like subtly like give you kind of a little bit of like backstory, I guess, on like Childs, like when they're all figuring out like who's supposed to get the gun, and it's like a little bit of like character like development where it's just like, oh, okay, now we know who the hothead is in here, because they like, oh, hold on, you definitely don't
someone
need
with a more even character, and they're like,
okay, damn, all right.
It's like he's an angry black man, right? Childs is, but like it doesn't feel like that's necessarily written into the design of his character that's who he is. He's angry, and it's like Ice Cube said, I am angry and I happen to be black, you know. That's kind of the vibe I get, is that Keith David is just playing that part, man. Like he and his character is kind of, he's speaking truth though. Like throughout the movie, he's dropping like facts, like, hey, look, like I'm in a situation where anybody in the room with me could be a monster. Like, I'm not trusting y'all. I'm not trusting anything you say at all.
Absolutely not. Like, yo, what are we talking about right here? Like, and y'all keep splitting up, man. Like, yo, what is happening, man?
Like, I'm going to make a note of who keeps suggesting splitting up, you know, like,
all right, y'all, let's test everybody blood. And then everybody gets tested, and it's like, all right, let's all split up and go off into different places where we can't see each other. Hey, wait, hold on, man. Why did we just do that? We might as well have not tested each other. Like, that was a pointless ass. Like,
kill him. He's got a problem. So, this is the tricky one, right? Like when we talk about how they do, when we ask you good, homie, we don't even know if they're still homie by the end of the movie. And so, I would say though, generally they did do good in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see an on-screen death of a black character. That's nice. And we, it's implied. I guess we can pretty much presume that Niles is no more, whatever that means. In the scenario.
He should have kept the skates on. Like he should have stayed inside and kept the skates on,
skating
and
around,
evaded the shit out of. Yeah, like you got to be like swifter than everybody else with the skates on. Like,
yeah.
I just think, like, to me, and maybe this is just my own like personal shit, but like, there's something about that last scene that says these two people are equal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, I don't know how to quite qualify that, but like you really, and again, I was on Reddit.
There's a respect going on.
There's some sort of acknowledgement of like, you didn't see this, you didn't even, I think I would guess that most audiences, especially given the premise of our entire show, didn't necessarily expect Childs to make it. He shows up at the end, and you're forced to reckon with the fact that not only did he make it, but MacReady might be a fucking monster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. And I think that given the nature of these two characters, I feel like that can lead us pretty smoothly into our rule. So we kind of decided that the rule that we took away from this movie is that two things needed to be true. You needed to be the guy behind the flamethrower, and you needed to be the manliest man in the room. Masculinity and fire were essential to surviving this movie.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
perfect combination. Like I said in the text, like what we've learned in movies is like nothing living likes to be burnt the fuck up. Like it just does. No, there's no movie where the fire doesn't work. Any movie, aliens, all of that shit, like just burn that shit up. Get some fire and burn that shit up, and I guarantee you he'll stop. I guarantee you he'll sit his ass down.
It's all charred.
Yeah,
that's the quote of the episode right there.
Yeah, man, fire or sit everybody ass down with the fire. Like I don't give a damn if you from wherever planet you came from.
Undead, Mars.
Don't nobody want to see that fire, bro. I'm telling you, nobody wants to see fire. The thing was like, oh damn, y'all got fire? Like, oh, hell, nah. All right, never mind. Let me turn into somebody.
It's like I came to where there was snow.
No fire.
I presumed I was to understand there would be no fire.
Frozen in a block of ice. I get out the ice and y'all got
like a lot of flamethrowers. Like I picked the wrong place.
There's a lot of fuel here on this place.
That was the other thing. I was like, yo, the tanks that they got like for the flamethrowers is like, I don't know what type of, like, they never ran out of like fuel. Like aside from the time where like the flamethrower just like was malfunctioning for convenience sake. Yeah. Like they just never ran out of fuel and they never refueled them. Like they just like,
they never showed it. Yeah.
Infinite ammo, bro.
Yeah, video
Infinite
game
ammo.
Flamethrower. Yeah. Video game flamethrower. Like, yeah, you got the flamethrower though. You won.
You good.
You won because nobody want to get set on fire, bro. I'm telling you that. I don't give a damn what if you're a creature or not. Like
I literally was thinking about that. I texted you guys like the other day I was like, I don't know what I was watching. What the fuck did I say? I was watching something and I was like, yeah, it's gotta be a flamethrower. That's the only thing.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I think we learned in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that there is something inherently like masculine, at least in our minds, or tough about the idea of a flamethrower specifically.
Wielding fire?
Yeah, wielding fire.
Is that like why dudes are like obsessed with grilling? Is that?
Yeah.
It's something primitive. It's something primitive there for sure.
Primal,
about
cooking things with fire.
Yeah, fire. Yeah.
Like you asked me to cook a meal, and I'm gonna do it begrudgingly. But you asked me to grill.
You asked me to throw it on the grill with an open flame. You talking about some different dynamics now with the flame out there. Like I got an open flame, like, and I'm controlling it and shit, like with the charcoal. Like, yo, listen, it's
the strategic charcoal placement.
Yeah. I'm controlling this element and shit.
I'm the captain now.
Right,
exactly.
Controlling this element.
I mean, because like that's the coolest shit. Like if you could, like some pyro, like X-Men shit. Like if you could control fire, that's cool as shit. Like harnessing fire. Yeah. Like, yo, come on, man. Yeah,
that's why my 8-year-old is obsessed with when we watched Avatar, that last Airbender.
Oh, the fire.
My 8-year-old is obsessed with Zuko, Prince Zuko, because he's a villain and he wields fire and he does cool flip kicks and shoots fire out of his hands, and it's like that's what's up. And so
Johnny Storm, like, come on, man. Like
Yeah.
he's just a complete ball of fire. Like he's like, yo, yeah. Like
when we love things, we say that's fire.
Exactly. Exactly.
It was the symbol by which man showed early intelligence was by creating fire. So yeah, I mean, I think there's something there.
It's Childs. Like Childs is flamethrower dude, and I think that's cool. Like he's flamethrower dude. Like I don't know how you get that job. I don't know what the application is like, but they're like, do we need the flamethrower? Go get Childs. Like how is that a certification?
Job listing?
That's like a ill ass like little caveat to have like on your resume. Like, oh, I see right here that you were a flamethrower guy. Like
flamethrower guy.
For a little bit, yeah, you know, I burnt a couple species up.
My younger days, yeah.
Before I went into law school, yeah.
I cut my teeth as a torch man, and then I upgraded to the flamethrower.
Cut my teeth as a torch man. I burned a couple motherfuckers out. I burned a couple of them up. Set them on fire. Set them on fire.
Do that, Keith David. Well, let me tell you about this one guy. I flamed him up.
God, that voice.
Yeah,
He looks
oh my
like
gosh.
I'm looking at him through this movie, and he's just he's just like leaning slightly forward, and his
Mhm.
eyes are just.
Mhm.
He looks like a fucking panther or something.
Yeah, and he looks different. And he looks different.
Feline
in this movie, too.
Yeah.
about him in this movie that is like fat.
Yeah.
I kept looking at him, going like, "How does he look like that? He doesn't normally look like that." But there's something about the way he's shot.
Well, he's
That, like-
aged he aged interestingly. I'll put it that way. Like he
Mhm.
kind of like it's weird. It was jarring to me because for a second I knew he was Childs. Like, and then every time I watched the movie, I'm like, that's him.
He
Like,
just
always
looks
has-
so different, though. Yeah.
Yeah. And as I guess I'm used to in my head seeing him about 10 to 15 years older. than
40,
that.
50 years old. He actually
Yeah.
looks older. He looks better as like an older gentleman.
Yeah.
Like, he looks
Yeah.
strange young to me. I was like, yeah, no, I don't like this.
The-
I don't, this making me uncomfortable.
There's certain actors like that, like Morgan Freeman too. Like you're just like, nah.
Yeah,
He's supposed to be
old.
He's supposed to be old, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wielding fire, being sort of super masculine. It's a crew of all guys, and the more blue collarish kind of guys make it to the end, which is also interesting. And then the more nerdy, sciencey guys become the thing,
Or get killed.
or get just straight up killed.
Mhm.
And that's also an interesting thing because, again, like, is that part of Carpenter's message? Is like, which I'm sure it's not necessarily wasn't inherently his message, but is it a message we can take away in terms of just having a more feet close to the ground kind of perspective, down to earth, so to speak, gives you more of a lens on what's going on around you, more of a tangible touch, more of a less of that egghead sort of high level understanding that could get you to overthink things and get yourself thinged.
Yeah, because like in this type of situation, like we don't need philosophical questions answered right now. Like we trying to stay alive, and whoever's the most capable of staying alive, because like Childs is like he's like a pretty big dude, like, and like Kurt Russell. I mean, they both look like I mean, Childs just looks menacing. Like, so it's like, yeah, I'm rolling with this guy, not the dude that can explain, the theory of relativity. Like, I don't give a shit, bro. We don't need philosophy.
Yeah, let's just solve problems right now.
Yeah. We have one problem in front of us, and like, can you burn it up? Like, that's like,
because you could literally take Blair out of the equation, and they would have. I mean, yes, he figured out stuff that we as viewers are able to use. But generally, like, once people start dying and getting assimilated, and it's like there's some weird stuff going on, there's only a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of that knowledge you need to know in order to be like, be like, okay, it's all right, cool. We know, oh, there's a monster in here and it's one of us. Bet. Okay, let's figure this out. Whereas he's over here kind of calculating, and they're like,
and then losing his shit, maybe as an alien or not, who knows? He sort of goes into the realm of like not attached to reality, and Childs and McCready are like firmly attached to reality. And there's there's an earthiness in both of their performances. It's just like, what the fuck do we need to do? Let's do it. Or like, get the fuck off me, I'm not it. Like there's like a just like there's just like an earthy I'm like a like complete groundedness in reality that gets them through.
Yeah. And then once you find out that there's not them, and they're like, all right, now untie me and watch out. What that flamethrower out? Let me see that.
Yep.
Let me see that real quick. Hey, hold on, let me see that. For real. It's like like at this, like, this is like the time where it's like, yeah, there's no time to think. It's like you don't have time to think. And that's like it's like being in a street fight. Like, I don't know if y'all have ever been in a fight before, but it's like there's no time to like you just don't have time to think. Like, you don't have time to do anything. Like, you just have to try to not get your ass beat.
Where Blair is flipping out and McCready's like, get a table, do this, do that, go do this, you do that, and I'm like, oh shit, okay, the table's because he knows he's gonna come at him and he's gonna shoot, and it like there's just this whole like I'm dealing with this situation practically element.
I don't know like how well I could outsmart a wild animal, like maybe my intellect helps. That's the thing. It's like maybe my intellect helps me a little bit, But then at some point, like his like just superior like power and speed and everything else is like, I don't care. You doing all this thinking and shit. Like, yo, you about to get
It's like,
sitting there
bro.
thinking, man, you about to get ate up. Like, yo, listen, I'm a wild animal. Like, I will kill you. Like, and I know how to kill effectively. And this thing knows how to kill effectively. And all you can do is just react and try to
Get behind a
survive. Like,
flamethrower.
yeah, get behind a flamethrower and burn
Yeah.
his ass up. Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing too, is there's a soldier kind of quality to these guys who survive. And in the end, I think that's part of that laugh that they share, is that like, you know, you think about two soldiers who you could have a guy you can't stand, and you go into war with that person, and you're like, man, this dude, you know, I can't stand this dude. We don't like none of the same stuff. We argue all the time. But then you fight in this war, and then you come out on the other side, and it's just you and him. You got to be thinking like, hey, you know what? Because you respect who he is. And there is that question of, are you the thing? Are you the thing? But ultimately, it's like, well, what does it matter at this point? If you're it, I'm dead right now, right? And you ain't killed me yet, so here we are. You know, and so there is like there's a camaraderie that kind of swells in that moment.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
it's like either and no, that's totally true. It's like you know, like what else do we have now?
yeah. Like the world's about to end or not, I don't know, but
yeah, and it's just us. And it's just us.
And we're gonna die in Antarctica.
Unlike many movies from the early 80s, even the ones I really like, this one gets me at some points every time. You know, it's just like, dang, it's so disgusting.
Because you forget stuff. Like, it's not one that like I just throw on all the time. So I don't remember. And it's not on a lot either. It's not on.
No, it's not.
Often. Yeah. Whereas like Halloween is just constantly on. So I've just seen it. And same thing with like Anaconda. I've just seen it so many times. This is one of those ones where I get surprised every time. Like, damn, I forgot. Like, when he's on the table, that I know that's gonna happen, but it catches me off guard almost every single time. I'm like, damn, I forgot about that shit.
Those
like,
practical effects, man, they're good. I mean, those are just some fucking amazing monsters. Like, truly the stuff of nightmares. They don't make any sense. Like, there's no, like, they're completely anatomically alien to, like, what we are. Like, it's just so unsettling and, like, gross and, like, ugh.
Yeah, they're not even practical to like be in that form. Like, that's not even like the most like convenient way for it to get around or anything. It's just like, nah, I'm just about to look crazy as hell.
Yeah.
It's just
but it's like, so it's there's an inconsistency to its functionality. Like the most probably genius moment it has is the spider head kind of thing, where it just kind of,
what is it? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I love that. But like the way it kind of just falls, the head falls off and then grows the legs and kind of, that's so clever though. That's such clever design from a behind the scenes standpoint. But even just the idea of it kind of getting where it gets, before they notice it and stuff. It's
kind of liquid. It's kind of fleshy.
Yeah.
It's kind of the scene I wrote down. It was like the scene where like Wilford Brimley sticks his hand and says, "We got a completely normal set of human organs." I'm like, "You what? Excuse me."
That's like so gross. What he's got like.
We got a normal heart. I'm like, you don't know if that's normal. Like, what are you talking about? It's inside whatever that is that already renders it completely abnormal.
Exactly.
Like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about, bro? Like, this is completely abnormal. Like, it might be the same size. Like, get out of here, man.
Yeah, it's inside of a weird, warp twisted dog head.
Yeah.
Like, it's not normal.
All right, y'all. Well, this was a lot of fun. Again, this is Survivor's Ed. This is a series where we are diving into all kinds of horror movies and talking about how you survive, particularly if your skin is a little melanated. So this is going to be a weekly series. We're covering lots of ground. I won't give too much preamble of what's to come, but we're going to
split up to cover more ground.
Yeah, we definitely got to split up to cover more ground.
So much ground. So much ground is going to be covered, y'all. You're not even ready for the amount of ground that's about to be covered.
Each do an episode where we're by ourselves talking about the movie, like to cover more ground. Right.
Covered ground. That'll be the name of that episode.
Covered ground.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this. Please comment if you're watching this on YouTube. You can also check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. And if you're checking us out on Apple Podcasts, please be sure to leave a review. That helps us kind of get bumped up in the algorithm and whatnot. Share this with folks. Engage with it. Subscribe, follow, whatever you got to do to make sure that you catch this series. So until next time, get your flamethrowers, grow some hair on your chest, and remember, the chameleon strikes in the dark.
He got like super James Bondy on the last, like raise the eyebrow, like remember that the chameleon strikes
in the dark.
We will see you next time.
Strikes in the dark.
I'm done.